Hello, welcome to Wednesday's Tea and Toast. I'm joined with Bianca. How are you doing today,
Good
Bianca?
morning.
And how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm up in the office, so in a new destination in the building.
Cool. What's happening at the yard today?
Whether my internet allows that to happen.
What's
My
happening at the
internet is
yard
rubbish.
today? Hello?
Sorry, Hello, can you hear us now? Sorry about that, everyone.
I could always hear you.
Am I back?
You didn't go anywhere.
One moment. Let me see what I can do. Okay.
Okay, we're
Can
going to
everyone hear me
restart
better now?
this. We're going to restart this. We'll be back in a
Steve?
second.
Can you hear me better?
I could always hear you. You haven't broken up or
Ah,
the
I
camera
can't hear
quality
you.
is a bit rubbish.
I couldn't hear you at all. So it was a bit strange at our end. At the yard today, we've got Clive downstairs who's tuning the piano. So that means that people will be able to play it without killing their eardrums. So that's quite cool. We've got Sophia in today because it's the school holidays. So part of our program is all of the arts. So today we're making worry warriors. So bring down an old pair of socks, gloves, or t-shirt or anything that you've got spare at home, and come and make something a little bit creative with it. So a bit of upcycling here. Tamsin will be here this afternoon to do her social action project. So they're making t-shirts. They're preparing their first sign. So we're looking at making a magazine, and they're looking at how they can do podcasts in the future. So
Excellent.
yeah, quite a busy day. But also we've got the girls group, we've got open access youth group, and Luke will be sending us some videos because he's at Forest School this week. But he'll be sending us some stuff about yard camp, things that you
Cool.
can do at home or in your garden.
Excellent.
So all of the excitement's here at the yard today.
All the excitement at the yard.
Yeah.
So what would you like to talk about today?
Well, I thought that we could start off by talking about the scooters. So I was reading on social media that the scooters have been extended. And it's really interesting because people in Northampton either really love them or they really, 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 really hate them. And I was wondering what you thought about the scooters, Steve. Do you think they're a good idea? Should they stay or go?
Yeah, your camera's not working properly. But your voice seems to be working fine.
No change there then.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe put a picture up instead.
Okay, I can do that.
Talk.
So, can you hear me still better?
Yeah. It's not
Okay,
better. It's
so
just it's a bit
less annoying when it's not connected. Yeah, I
yeah
understand.
to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the scooters. I think obviously there is some safety concerns, and I think people are not very considerate in how they park them.
Yeah.
But maybe that was just teething problems, and the more it becomes normal, the more considerate people will be at using them. But I think the scooters in and of themselves are not that problematic. My only problem with it is we got rid of the bikes, which are healthy, and replaced them with something which isn't very healthy at all.
Yeah. I think I told you, but other people won't know. But I was driving to the yard or driving home the other week, and a young lady had lost control of her scooter and got into a car, and they were badly injured.
Yeah.
So I think one of the difficulties is that we don't have a really good cycle lane or anywhere for them to go. So people drive them on the pavements and really annoy the pedestrians, or they drive them on the road and they really annoy the motorists. So if Northampton is going to keep this up, it seems to me as if they really need to look at their relationship with cyclists and alternative
definitely.
transport to bikes. But I still really like them. Because like we went on them in Madrid, didn't we, Steve? And they were great fun.
Yeah, but they had cycle lanes, didn't they? Or moped lanes.
Yeah.
So
they did have those.
And you were allowed to drive them in the park and stuff.
So I wonder if you've been on a scooter and you had a good time, you had a bad time. Do you think it's expensive? Do you share some of the concerns? Let us know your thoughts on the scootering that's happening at the moment. I'd be really interested to hear your news. What do you think? You had a go in Northampton as well, though, haven't you, Steve? You drove home on one.
Yeah, and they do like. I think if I didn't know how to drive, I'd find it a lot harder to use one of them because you have to like indicate and stuff. Like it has an indicate button on it, and you have to indicate when you're turning and things like that to alert other road users of what you're doing. I don't really see many
people. Yeah,
I don't really see many people. Yeah, I don't see many people doing that, to be honest. And one of the other problems is as well, you've got kids using them, and they're not actually made for kids at all.
Yeah.
So I think having them's fine, but there should be bikes still.
Yeah, absolutely.
More people should bike, and definitely the council needs to do what you said and focus on those like cycle lanes and making it safer for bike users, walkers in general as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see the council invest in giving bikes away. Do you know what I mean? Every family should have a bike. Do you mean maybe that would increase? Do you mean people not using their cars?
That's just a culture change, isn't it? If you go to like the Netherlands, there's bloody bikes everywhere. They have car parks for their bikes. That's how many bikes there are.
Yeah, those were the days. we dreamed for that. So that's kind of my starting topic. My next topic, but I thought I could ask you about, is I don't know whether you saw the video online. There was a police officer who assaulted a young person.
I haven't seen the video, no.
Have you read the article?
No. So what happened?
Okay. On it. Let me just. Can you share it on here? Do you know how to do that?
Because you can't share your screen.
Oh, you can. I don't know how I do it on. I don't think I could do it on this. Okay, so one of the things. 1 moment. Just looking properly for it. So a policeman punched a schoolboy in the head before kicking him in the ribs like a football. The victim was wrongly accused of carrying drugs when West Midlands police officer launched a horrifying assault. Says the CTV judge has said that the CCTV footage is disastrous for public police relationships. It's an absolutely horrifying moment when an on-duty police officer punches the schoolboy to the ground. The boy is only 15 and he was wrongly accused of carrying drugs.
I'm not surprised, and this isn't a new thing. When I wasn't 15, but when I was 16, I got attacked by the police, like pepper sprayed, kicked, assaulted really, but didn't know the rules or whatever, and it's quite intimidating really to even try and challenge that, not without video evidence and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. This police officer is facing jail and he's been found guilty of 2 separate attacks on members of the public. So the first is on the schoolboy and then also on a cyclist. So the PC stopped him out riding his bike to search him and then punched him several times in his torso and held him onto the bonnet of the police patrol car.
It's absolutely horrific. Not saying this police officer is part of it, but there's also this problem in the police where a lot of them are steroid users. And one of the side effects of steroid abuse is roid rage.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
not saying he was having roid rage, but he definitely has some kind of anger issues and doesn't really know
Yeah,
what his job is. And he
yeah,
looks like he's on his
absolutely.
own. Like maybe if there was two of them,
Yeah,
one of them would step in,
absolutely.
but I doubt that would be the case. But
It certainly reminds us how important it is for there's a new bill going through, hasn't it? It's just gone through Parliament for the first time
yeah,
about our right to protest. And it's acts like this that make it really important. But we do have the right to protest. This is not saying that all police are going to break the law, but because some police do, we need to be able to make sure we can hold people to account and stand up and be counted when we think that things are wrong.
yeah,
Do you mean this the police force used to be a police service?
yeah.
Used to serve our communities. And I think it's really important to get back to that kind of relationship where people know that they're part of a community.
And know the police person. And maybe if the police officer lived in that community, he'd be less willing to beat up members of that community because he'd have to see them every day, wouldn't he? But they could just
Yeah,
move him on or reassign him or something, and that's it. Luckily, it looks like this police officer actually going to face justice, or at least go to the
yeah,
courts. Whether that equals a conviction, who knows? But it's good that one, there's evidence, and two, he's actually been taken to court, so they're actually trying to do something. Looks like they're saying that they suspected he had drugs on him. And say if this schoolboy was guilty and did have drugs on him, it's still way disproportionate use of force against an unarmed boy.
yeah.
If someone came up to you along in the street and did this to you,
Oh,
well,
it'd be
you'd
assault.
fight them back, wouldn't you? It'd be assault.
Yeah,
And if the boy did fight back, speaking from personal experience, he would get done for resisting arrest.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so it's like, well, who polices the police, isn't it? Who ensures? I know we've got the IPCC or whatever, but when the police can get away with it, like if this wasn't recorded, for example, this wouldn't be happening because no one would know about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the good things about mobile phones now is everyone has a camera and the police can't get away with half as much as what they used to be able to get away with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wonder what your relationship with the police is. Have you got a good relationship with them? What do you think about Northamptonshire Police? We've got a relatively new police inspector who's trying to change the force. Are you reassured that the majority of our officers carry tasers? Has that helped you feel safer in your community? I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Well, what if this guy had a taser?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, those two people are going to get tasered if he had a taser.
Yeah.
They were going to get hurt.
Um.
So
Yeah.
we can see some of the pitfalls, but maybe you've got some good news stories to tell us about the police in your community.
Like,
One
don't get me
go
wrong. The police are people, at the end of the day. And you
absolutely.
do get some good police officers, but I think the general culture of the police is one which they're very protectionist of themselves and their reputation, and look like they did to those Sarah Evendeen protesters because it was like a Met police officer. They just beat the crap out of them, didn't they? So if that, even if there is good people there, if the general culture is a negative one and one that is predisposed
Yeah, just yeah, that's
to violence, or it's going to perpetuate that, isn't it? And even the good people will get beaten down. One of the greatest examples, I think, is how I can't think of his name, but he was like the first black police officer, and how or police chief or something, and how he was treated because of the culture that existed at the time. It's relatively better now, but it's like they are hurdles, and giving the police more powers and to get away with stuff, like the undercover thing that happened as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not dealing with the rot and the rotten culture that exists within.
No, absolutely. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because we know that people join the police with good intentions, but the system seems to be not on their side, and also not on the side of ordinary people either.
Well, if you did speak out against a fellow officer, you would be ostracized by your colleagues, because it's kind of like, it's not like a mafia, but it's kind of like, oh, murder, don't tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't grass on your fellow officers when they mess up or do stuff which is illegal, basically.
Yeah. I don't know whether anybody who's listening or watching this is a budding photographer, and I just want to let you know about a competition that Mulberry Home Developments have been organising, and they are asking amateur photographers, nature enthusiasts, and animal lovers who love taking pictures of Northamptonshire to enter their competition, so that your photo could be part of their calendars for next year. So I will put the details underneath the thread when we're finished on this conversation. But I thought that's a nice kind of thing. Sometimes it's nice to have something to do. So, yeah, okay, Steve. You're not
and as this incident was based on drugs, I think it's a good time to say that drug deaths in England and Wales are the highest since 1993.
Yeah,
which
I
is
remember saying that.
So in total there was 4,561 deaths related to drug poisoning last year. It's the equivalent of 79.5 per million people. But if you look at just men, it's 109.7. It's almost double. Females is 49.8 drug deaths per million. So it looks like men have a much higher problem with drug use than women. And almost half of the deaths were to do with opiates, so like heroin, methadone, etc. And it looks like the war on drugs has failed, really, hasn't it? Because there's just, not only is the deaths rising, but I think drugs are a lot more culturally acceptable now than they were, say, like in the 70s or something. You had, like, in the 90s, you had rave culture. And a lot of the people that are like 50 now used to go out, take drugs in the 90s. And maybe this rise is partly because they're 50 and they're still banging on the drugs that they were doing when they were in their 20s. Hello? I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she can't hear us or something. So I'll just talk. And it says that the highest rate was among people aged 45 to 49. So yeah, they would have probably been long-term drug users. And we were just talking about a police response to drugs. And obviously it's a violent one. And maybe the better method would be if we decriminalized drug use and we started treating it as a health problem rather than a criminal one. And even legalizing, I think, some drugs would be beneficial, not only in damaging organized crime, but in ensuring that the supply wasn't tainted. Like, I remember, like, I've taken drugs before, and I remember there was a thing about certain drugs being cut with rat poison. And the actual purity of the drugs is a problem. When I was in Amsterdam, they actually sell drug test kits in the shop, and you can actually go and test what your drugs contain before you take them. And it's like that, which isn't coming from a position of drugs are morally evil and morally wrong, which seems to be the government position on it, which helps perpetuate not only the violence but all of the crime related to drug use. Like if it was legalized, there'd be far less drug issues.
And then also
Oh, you're
the
there.
reduction in
Where'd you
crime.
go?
My signal just went completely, so I had to come
Oh, you're
outside the
back.
building. I'm back in the real world. Yeah, I'm standing outside the building because we've got a piano tuner in there, so you won't be able to hear me very well. So they were just moving everything around. I think that was the problem. So apologies. So yeah, one of the difficulties that also, if we don't deal with drugs properly, is we can't reduce crime. So we have to look at it as a health issue and not a crime issue.
Well, the amount of money that's probably spent on policing drugs,
it's huge.
And all that money could actually be put on tackling, I don't know, other criminal issues. For example, let's say violent crime, crimes against women, racial crimes, crimes that are actually causing irreparable harm. I'm not saying those issues that exist around drugs are partly created by the fact it is illegal and it is a criminal issue, which pushes it into the underworld rather than in the open. I'm not saying let's start smoking crack on Abington Street, but like if there are safe places that people can go and consume drugs, where they can get advice, where they're using clean needles, where if they do OD, they can get a medical help that they need. Talk about, like, for example, in school, she's broken up again. Maybe instead of just saying like drugs are all bad, they should actually talk about safe use of drugs. Not promoting drug use per se, but I think if kids knew how the safety, and not saying like all drugs are bad, but like teaching kids how to, be sensible with drugs, because I think that lack of education and coming from the point that drugs are bad from the outset automatically creates like a kind of, well, the elders are saying drugs are bad, so let's do drugs. We're rebelling, and then you get caught up in a system, don't you? And then you get a chance of getting picked up by people that are not very nice in those drug circles and being socialized and taken into something that is actually negative, because I do think there is a lot of nastiness around drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think that within
it's not a safe environment for kids, really, is it?
No, but I also think when we talk about drugs, we shouldn't ignore alcohol, and people don't know how to drink properly either. We come from a culture of binge drinkers, and who then behave really appallingly. We saw that at the football, didn't we?
Yeah, and you got to look, like, cannabis in and of itself is it's a lot less violent inducing than, let's say, alcohol. And I think where alcohol is concerned as well, it's like they say cannabis is the gateway drug, but I actually think drinking is the gateway drug, isn't it?
Yeah, I think drinking is the gateway drug. I don't think it's cannabis, but I think we should legalize all drugs. That's a big ask. But I also think that here in Northampton, one of the problems is that we've had so much cuts to services. So actually, not only are we not teaching about drugs, but we're actually not having the facilities for anybody. As I walk around Gold Street and up through Abington Street, I'm seeing more and more people who've got some complex needs and addictions.
Yeah, and you got to see as well that, like, drug addiction, this is the kind of health aspect as well. There's a lot of drug abuse and substance abuse in general are related to other problems, either a socio or economic or medical, like people self-medicating with mental health issues, homeless people using drugs as a way to escape their predicament, like escape their reality. You've got other environmental factors as well. And unless these underlying causes of drug addiction are tackled, then people are going to either relapse or not address the problem, because the real problem behind the drug addiction still exists. So it needs to be holistic in approach. Like Portugal decriminalized all drugs and moved towards a more health approach of solving the issue. And it was heroin use, as it was saying, half of the deaths are opiate based, not necessarily heroin, but that's probably the most popular opiate that's used. They fell by half.
Yeah.
So there is a model out there that does work and is proven to work, but there's no political will in this country to do it because of this outdated idea that drug use is morally wrong.
So I wonder whether you've got a view about what Steve and I are talking about. If you think, like us, that this is a public health problem, that this is about the dissemination of services, and we'd love to hear your view. If, however, you think we're speaking a whole lot of tosh, and that actually people are responsible for their own individual problems, we'd be interested to hear your view too. And don't forget, but even though you're seeing us online, you could come into the yard and you could have a cup of tea with us and have a natter face to face. Tuesday to Friday, Jasmine's here, the kettle's on, and you're more than welcome. However, if you want to stay at home and join us in the debate here online, you're more than welcome to do that too. You don't have to be an armchair warrior. You can come and join us live. We can send you the link and you can be part of the conversation.
Finally, I think to end it on, there's some cautiously good news where COVID's related, at least in this country. Hospital admissions have dropped a little bit.
That's good.
The surge of like 200,000 or 100,000 cases a day doesn't seem to have materialized, at least not in August.
That's good.
But the problem is, this is a global thing. It can mutate somewhere. It could become more deadly. I don't think we're out the woods yet. I think, it could just be it's summertime, so it's less. Schools are out, so there's less transmission. If schools were the main drive, then it explains why they've gone down like they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's good news in the short term, but I think long term, there's still be cautious, still seek to protect yourself and stuff, and don't make sensible choices.
And the best way to protect yourself is making sure you've got your own little pot of hand sanitizer, you've got your face mask, and you're keeping at least a cow away from other people. Not a chicken, but a whole cow. And by giving each other space, we'll be able to reduce our risk of COVID. And for those people who feel like they can, then I actively encourage people to take the vaccine where possible. And anybody over the age of 16 can now get registered to get a vaccine. And remember, the vaccine won't stop you getting COVID, but it will reduce your likelihood of dying. And that's actually what this is all about, isn't it? We don't want people dying from COVID. We don't want our loved ones dying from it. So if you can take the vaccine, then please sign up, especially younger people. You might feel like you're not going to die anyway, but it's about you spreading it and about how you can help be part of the chain of making it a better place for everybody.
I don't know about like 16 to 17-year-olds having it. I'm not sure if it seems a bit weird. Like if what's happening, like they're shown, like the data is showing that all these cases are going down, blah, blah, blah. Hospital admissions are going down, etc. I think those vaccines should be prioritizing people in other countries who are at risk of dying from it, because it's a global pandemic. It's not just a British thing, and 16 to 17-year-olds have a very, very, very small chance of getting seriously ill. They have a very, very small chance of actually dying from the virus. Whereas, say, like an elderly person in, I don't know, Ukraine, for example, has a very high chance of dying. I think it just needs global cooperation that we're not seeing. Because if it does mutate in another country and then it spreads, we're all going to pay that price. And with being open like we are now, means that it's very easy for new variants to get into the country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think really, in an ideal world, we would be giving far more vaccines to other countries, and 100%, I think that. But I think, unfortunately, that's not the government's strategy. So rather than these vaccines go to waste, I think that people should take the use of them. I also think that people should write to their MPs demanding that we help other countries.
Yeah, I
True.
think they have sent some vaccines abroad. And
Yeah,
then
they've
there's
sent some, but
the
not
other
enough.
thing, like they're saying if the cases are like they are now in autumn, they reckon it will go up because of people being inside more and schools being around
Yeah,
and waning vaccine immunity. So
yeah.
they reckon there's going to be a campaign for a booster jab in the autumn time.
Yeah, absolutely. The talk about COVID isn't over, not for a long shot.
No, but
Yay!
if
Happy
if
days.
if this trend continues into the autumn, then the
But
worst is seemingly behind us.
absolutely, then this time next year, we can actually hopefully worry less.
Yeah, be back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that lots of the countries that were on a red and amber list are now putting on a green list. So now all we need is to be on other countries' green lists, and then we can see things change a bit again positively. Well, we've seemed to put the world to rights this morning, Steve, as always.
Yeah, I think we should leave it there. So thank you for joining me, Bianca. If
Thank you for having me. Sorry about
you have
my
any,
internet.
if it's okay, if anyone watching has any thoughts on what we've discussed or would like to either join us or would like us to address a topic of your choice, please get in touch. And hey,
Morning,
Ronzo, how you doing,
Bonzo.
mate? Good morning, buddy. I will be back in about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes with the Old Republic. I just need to go and make my coffee. I'd like to extend a big thank you to Bianca for joining us,
Yeah, thank
even
you.
with the technical difficulties.
Monzo, sorry, we have to go, but you can see Steve and have a natter with him then. And I know that Monzo is going to be helping us set up a online D&D. So we've got our face-to-face D&D. So we're going to be doing an online version too.
Online
So
international D&D, because Ronzo's from India, so
in India.
D&D
Yeah,
from England to India.
Fantastic. Right.
Take it easy, guys.
See you
Hope you all
later,
have a
Steve.
good day. And if you're in Northampton, don't forget to go out and check out the yard.
Check out
Thank
the
you.
yard. Come on a scooter.
Goodbye.